It's a LAN. It's a LAN. You want to connect.
So where's the original service provider?
Right. The service provider for Spectrum. Spectrum. Yeah, we had to. Yeah, on board them.
And then they install this.
Yes.
So this is a temporary install.
Yeah, this was that we got in the temporary use.
So
This
A Nigerian student. I'm sure there's just 3 Nigerian students. Like great early career, safety with scholar. My name is Luka and I'm privileged.
Please, B401, please. Session has started.
Can we get somebody to write the names of noisemakers? Yes, I think we should keep names of noisemakers. And I'm sure so many of you were always on that list in secondary school. It's my honor to be the chair of this session, and a very important one, perhaps one of the most important sessions in this conference for those of you who are early careers. In economics, they say that production is not complete until the food that is produced has been consumed. Secondary school economics 101. I would like to shout out to all of those who have joined us online, as well as all of you who are also here in person. We do have all the other panelists joining us online. I'll just make preliminary remarks before just moving into the presentations program, as a way of contextualizing this session. And this workshop features colleagues who recently secured tenure track positions. I thought we should underline that these are colleagues who recently secured tenure track positions. And that topics for conversation includes, but not limited to, cover letter writing, formatting CV, preparing for an interview, dissertation completion, thesis revision into the manuscript, virtual or in-person interviews, letters of recommendation, crafting research and teaching statements and philosophy, mock interviews, on-campus visits, teaching demonstrations, and research talk, among others. I thought to re-emphasize these subtopics as a way of priming our panelists this afternoon to focus their discussions along these lines. But importantly, I also want to note that although this panel says it's academic job hunting in North America, I recognize the fact that as early career scholars, not all of us will head into North America. And so I would like on my own part to pivot into the general idea of securing academic jobs, whether it's in North America, on which these colleagues on the other side of the Atlantic will be focusing on, but which on my part, being a local boy, will be dealing also with the local part of it, to say securing academic jobs generally, whether it's in North America or anywhere. The reason being that our education is not complete until we have found jobs. And there's a missing part in most Nigerian universities, and some of you who work in universities there and who are actually privileged should be the ones to help advocate for that. In North American universities, the career development departments are very important because part of university ranking is how their alumni perform. And so they take joy, and their interest in the well-being and the welfare of their students extends to assisting them to get jobs. In other words, as academics, as mentors, our job is perhaps only completed when our mentees, our students, have acquired the jobs for which they have trained. And increasingly, and it's important that we know this as well, there's an emphasis on the importance of a PhD. Some people are beginning to say, why do we have to train a lot of people for PhDs when they still have to struggle to get jobs afterwards? It's a lot of time to commit to education, and at the end, it doesn't look like a job will simply be handed over to you. These are some of the thoughts I hope that I can provoke as the chair of this panel, and also to draw the attention to the need for us as instructors and as educators to encourage our departments, our universities, to not only track alumni, but to think about what many North American universities also do. They organize trade, what they call it, they organize career fairs. So you just don't finish. Their business includes inviting potential employers to the universities on specific days where they come different companies on campus to host career fairs. And many students get hired from that. It will sound revolutionary, but some of us actually like to sound revolutionary. Even when you're asking for is very basic. As we begin conversations this afternoon, these are some of the highlights or the ideas that I hope that I can draw your attention to, so that beyond the conversations we'll be having online and with these presentations, we'll be leaving here with even more questions and becoming more advocates for some of these ideas. Hold university in Nigeria, in the various places that you are, to consider hosting career fairs. I know the question will be asked, how many companies are employing? And how do they even come on campus? Is a very valid question. But we are not to begin to deal with that as educators. We also thrive in ideas that would look most improbable and that are realizable. And because I'm not one of the panelists, I'm just facilitating, I'm going to withdraw at this point. I'm just enjoying talking. To invite these panelists. So we have 4 panelists here, or discussants. And we have Morenikeji Asaju. And then we have Taiwo Bello. And then we have Vivian Lu and Chinaza Anezo Koli. And with all due respect, I hope they can still hear me, right? Can you hear me online? If you can, give me a thumb up. Oh, okay. I think they are not. Do you have any backup system? Yes. This is out of anger. I started my career at The Guardian, and I left The Guardian after less than 100. You're back. Okay, that story is cut off. No. Let's move on to the business. This one is the one that is working. So we post that story. I'll take get fee for the continuation of that story. Chapter one. Or like Nollywood, the story continues. I wanted to stand so that I can see the people at the back. So, hey guys, I was just introducing you as a whole. I know at least one person there very well, or I believe I know them very well. So I didn't add the titles because I believe that we all assume that these are all doctors, they're PhDs. So we have Dr. Morenikeji Asaju, we have Dr. Taiwo Bello, and we have Dr. Vivian Lu, and we have Dr. Chinaza Amezi Okoli. I can't overemphasize the importance of adding the titles to these names, because PhDs are not easily earned. Some people call PhD permanent head damage because of what happens with the process. It's never easy anywhere in the world. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I would duly accord your titles and recognize. And I want to thank you on behalf of LSA for finding time to join and to present on this most important panel. And before we continue, we talked about writing names of noisemakers. We will write names of those whose phones ring, because we have very little time, and this is serious business because employment has to do with money. So please put your phone on silent so that you don't punctuate our conversations. And we're going to follow the order in which the names are written here, if you don't mind, with the discussants. And so I would ask that the speakers approach this. I don't know how you are prepared. We didn't give you any heads up, but I would like to see a session that is not too formal, that is a bit semi-formal, and if you may, informal. I'd like to see us engage into conversations. So if you don't mind, I'll say if you could do like 7 to 8 minutes, presentation, and then we can open it up on the panel basis so we can have a conversation, a discussion, then we will end and then have questions and answers. Does that work? Yes, that way we will prompt you to speak more, because in some of the panels I've attended, I noticed that there were a whole lot of people who wanted to ask questions and to participate, but we had to cut them off. So I would like to, I know many of you want to ask questions on how you can start earning dollars. So I will begin with Dr. Morenike Jasaju, who is the Governor State University. Please, can you go for about 7-8 minutes? And the other speakers will go in like order. Oh, we're 3. Who is missing? Is that 5 people on? I'm saying for the 4th window is LSA. Is somebody hidden? Yes, but I see 3 people on the screen. So Chinaza is not there. All right, so that increases time for us. So take about 8 to 10 minutes as your first conversation on the topic. And then we'll follow up in the order in which you occur on the list here. And then we will have an open conversation, which I will lead on some specific aspects where any of you can respond. And after that quick session, we'll open up our Q&A so we can answer as many questions as possible. So I would invite Dr. Morenike Jasaju to make her presentation. Thank you. Can you guys give a round of applause for your moderator? Oh, that's more like it. Sorry, Morenike, we just came from lunch and I wanted to be sure that everybody's awake.
Okay, that's fine. Good afternoon, everyone. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so good morning, everyone now. And I want to also thank the LSE for putting this up together and for also inviting me to be here. So in the next few minutes, I will want to talk about specific moments in my own quest for a job in North America. And by this, I mean some of the things that I did and how I also navigated the process. And hopefully you can, draw some useful insights from this. And at the end of the day, I'll be happy to answer some questions that you have for me. So a little bit of context. I had my undergraduate degree and master's degree in Nigeria, and then I received my PhD in Germany. So one of the questions I began to ask myself and also my mentors, because I had mentors in North America, was in the last year of my graduate school was what are the things that I need to do to get a job in North America, because I knew I wanted to have a job in academia in North America. So although from my own personal research, I know that the academia share, many similarities worldwide. But 2 things that I picked out was in terms of the publication culture, that's, publishing practices, journal preferences. What I did was to, start with postdocs that, would allow me build on this aspect. So I got postdocs for that lasted for a few weeks, 10 weeks, and then the one for 6 months, and then I got an 18-month postdoc at the University of Birmingham. And what these postdocs allowed me to do was to build on my research, having just received my PhD from Germany. And then the 18-month postdoc also allowed me to be able to teach, a different set of students, which a more diverse population of students, and also teach, existing courses in that university, and also develop and teach courses, based on my own research. So my first entry to North American job market was in 2022, and I applied to just one school. I was invited for an interview, but the search was not concluded. So in 2023, I entered fully. I put in about 10 applications. I received 7 interviews and also 3 campus visits. One of the campus visits was in person, and the other 2 was, took place virtually. And so the job hunting process, in North America is, it's very, very demanding and very, very tasking. I mean, it can, sometimes drive you crazy, but one thing that I mean, from my own experience, anyone who has received a PhD is already stuffed or prepared for that, that stress. So one of the things that helped me was having dependable people around me. You need people who can look at your materials, people you can have critical conversation with. They can have a look at your material, and then you have critical conversations about those materials. I remember when I first, revised my cover letter for the job market in 2023. And one of the first person I shared that material with was my partner, because it's always my first go-to before I send the application materials out, even to my mentors. And so when they sent back the cover letter to me, I couldn't recognize it was what I sent to him. I mean, there were a lot of queries because, I mean, basically, the goal of the cover letter is how are you the right candidate for this job? Why should we ignore over 100 people and focus on you? So why should we ignore other people and pick you as the right candidate for this job? So it's just one position, and you have tons of hundreds of people who have applied for this job. So, for example, my current job, when I assumed duty and I started interacting with my colleagues, my chair told me that over 100 applications were received. So it's it's a very competitive space. So you want to craft your cover letter, which is more like your application letter. You want to craft that cover letter where you profile yourself, you present yourself as the best candidate for this job. And so you want to be able to exhaust all the resources that you have. And part of these resources are the human beings that are around, that you surround yourself with. And these are very dependable people, competent and skillful human beings, who will be able to help you. So one of the things I will also want to say is that the job hunting thing cannot be done in isolation. You need people, people who have done it before you, who have gone through that process. You need people who can, help you, think critically about your application material. So, I mean, you will get the job, but the process towards getting the job, you cannot do. You cannot do the job alone. You need people who will be able to guide you through this process. So my point is that for the entire process, do not minimize the idea of reaching out to people who have done it before you, people who are willing to help you. And I want to use this opportunity to thank someone like Professor Aderito. I'm not, singing his praises because he's the LSA president, but he's been very, very supportive and also very invaluable. He zoomed in before me. He zoomed in with me before a couple of my interviews, and he also conducted mock interviews with me a couple of times with people like Dr. Bogi and also Dr. Stephen Boluwadro. And so you need people like, you need to surround yourself with people like that who are dependable, who can help move your hand through the process, because I must tell you, the process is very rigorous and it is very, very, very intensive. Then again, you also need responsive mentors, people who are willing to submit letters, to also support. I'm very blessed, also privileged to have supportive mentors like Professor Mann and Professor Duto, who were very, very responsive. I mean, when I turn in the application, they also need to, support to also application. So one of the things so far I've talked about, how some of the things you need to know about preparation and planning. And one book that I would also want to suggest that also helped me is Karen Kelsley's book titled The Professor is In. So if you cannot buy that book, you can also, she has a website where she has a couple of blog posts, that are also connected to some of the things that, she's talked about in the book. And she also has a page on Facebook. So if you can't buy the book, you can also, I think, like her page on Facebook, or also visit our book. So the book talks about all you need to, how you need to prepare, talks about, I mean, extensively about, some of the things you need to do in your search for a job in North America. So when it comes to preparation, one thing I would want to say is it's very important that you get started very early, because again, you want to send out your application materials to people to help you look at it, and you want to have conversations around those materials. So, and this people are also busy with their own personal life. So you want to get started early and share the materials with them. So when it also comes to preparing, it's always very important to have templates from people to see how they have structured their application materials, and more specifically here in terms of writing the cover letter, you want to see how they have also written their own cover letter. And the book I mentioned earlier, that's Karen Kelsley's book, has a template for cover letter for applying for jobs. And it's also important that you are able to differentiate the jobs that you're applying for. I mean, sometimes it could be at a liberal arts college, and it could be at a research university or a teaching university. So all of this information will be conveyed to you in the job advert. So you need to look closely at the job advert and take note of all of these different differences. And then you also have to tailor your application materials. I mean, you have to tailor your application materials knowing the type of university you're applying to, and also their requirements. For instance, you need to know if it's a teaching intensive university, if it's a research university. And so it is very important that you pay attention to these differences among these universities. So what I did was I had just one cover letter, and then I began to modify them, to modify or tailor them to suit the job, to suit the job advert. So in terms of the teaching university, because right now I'm at a teaching university. When you write your cover letter, you would want to focus more on your teaching. Talk more about your teaching. Then your cover letter must also be on letterhead if you have a current affiliation. So you want your cover letter to be on a letterhead. And then it must, also follow the normal etiquette. You have a date, written on it, and then you have the salutation. And one of the things I also learned very early in writing the cover letter is that you do not begin your application letter by writing things like, please accept this application. You are not a supplicant. So
Okay, I'm just going to talk while we are waiting for her to there's a freeze in the network. So please let me about 167. Okay, she's back. All right, I yield.
Okay, how am I doing for time? Do I still have time? Can I?
Yes, go ahead. If you could just take another 5 minutes.
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier before, the network went off. So you want to show, rather than tell, you want to demonstrate how, for instance, if you say you are passionate about teaching, you want to show them, how you are indeed a passionate teacher. For instance, talking about the kind of technologies you deployed in your class, how that has been very effective. You want to also show how for instance, how you've worked, one-on-one with students on your individual research project, which had also, led into publications. Therefore, a research university, you want to dwell extensively on your research, talk about, your research, more specifically, how your research contributes to the major debates in your field, and the nature of intervention that your research is making. And you also want to talk about your publication plans, the kind of publication that has come out from your research, and also your future publication plans, that are forthcoming, and how, how your research also shapes or motivates your teaching. So it's more about, it's more about showing, and it's more than just stating it. You also have to show, you have to talk about the evidence. In a teaching university, for instance, you want to talk, you want to tell them or show, and also show that you're an innovative teacher. You talk about your methods of teaching, and then you want to name specific courses, and also describe the methods you have used in teaching them. And if you have specific outcomes in terms of, teaching awards, we also want to mention them, because that also, helps to show that you are indeed innovative teacher. And for a research university, you want to specify.
Go ahead, take another 2 minutes, please.
Okay. So, for a research university, you also, in talking about your research, you also want to, talk about, your second project, and this should arise organically, out of your first research, showing both a continuity of interest and specialization, and the vibrant new direction. And more importantly, you want to do your homework by mentioning 1 or 2 faculty members, as potential collaborators, not mentors, but as people that you can collaborate with, either in terms of research or also in terms of teaching. So I think I would stop there and wait to have questions from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Asaju, for setting the ball rolling. Just looking at the time, and then if we take another 10, let's say 12 minutes, we'll be getting so close to maybe around 4:50. So I'm going to say, and if we took 15 minutes for the 2 remaining people, we'll be looking at around closer to 5, and we're stopping at 5:15. I really would love us to have more time for conversation. So realizing how much overlap there will be in this presentation in terms of the experiences of the presenters, I want to challenge you as much as possible to see ways in which you can possibly share your experience with regard to the topic in the areas that Morenica may not have covered. And if overlap is inevitable, as is typically the case with such kind of presentations, please don't hesitate to let the overlap work. But so that we can just advance the overview of the experience we have. So for example, I'll be interested in seeing things about statement of teaching philosophy or research statements. And then I'd also be interested in looking at a campus visit of, some of the ideas, especially that are novel to people in this part of the world applying to the academic job markets in North America. So I would ask Dr. Taiwo Bello from Oklahoma State University to join the discussion.
Thank you so much, Professor Nduka Tiono. That's my boss right there. And thank you very much for handling this session. Thank you very much also to Dr. Asaju, for leading the path. So my presentation actually would not focus on areas that Dr. Asaju has covered. But I would like to start by saying that, this came out from my own experience on the job market. The first thing I think one should do is to start early. Starting early, meaning if by the time you get to the final lap of your PhD, you should start exploring the job market. You may get on the job market, let's assume you are finishing maybe in 2025. By 2024, start experimenting. PC, definitely you would have a lot of experience that would help in securing or landing your dream job in the following year. So starting early is very, very important. And the second thing that I did was I was constantly asking questions from the likes of Professor Aderintor and the other key professors who have gone ahead of me, whom I know are way ahead, who have been out there many years before I even started my PhD. So I constantly ask them questions. How do I do this? How to go about that and the likes.
Are we back?
Okay, do I continue?
Yes, you're back. Go ahead, Taiwo.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much, sir. So another thing I did was to ensure that I published. Because when you are in graduate school, your committee members might not want you to get into other things other than finishing your dissertation. And that's very, very deceptive in the sense that they are just interested.
I can ask him to reduce. Don't bank on it. We're better off making sure the third person also speaks and then it's full. Okay. So Taiwo, can you continue? Sorry about the break in transmission. It's due to power failure from NEPA. Go ahead.
Okay, sir. Yeah, okay. So the third one is to ensure that you publish even as a grad student. I did that a lot. I ensured that I published some of my findings. I mean, not directly related to what I was working on for my PhD. And that really helped me a lot in staying competitive on the job market. I ensured I got, a lot of invites, campus visits and likes, but I had to focus on the one that I felt was okay for me, which was Oklahoma State University. So publishing cannot be overemphasized. Just ensure that you publish, you put yourself out there, because
increase your bandwidth. Hello, Taiwo, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, may I ask Vivian and Morenica to turn off their camera so that we can increase our bandwidth here, and then the speaker only can retain their camera. I don't know whether that's going to be helpful. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So publishing is what I was talking about before the line went off. So ensuring that one publishes is very important, because the competition on the job market is very high now, such that you might even have some people who have published like 2 to 3 books competing for the same job that you are trying to get, right? As someone who is just coming out from grad school, you may not have published more than even just one article. So ensuring that you publish as many articles as you can is very, very important in landing a job. And another point that I would like to make is workshopping your cover letter. By sending your cover letter to people who have got more experience in that field. Like I said, those who have been through this process many, many years ago. Ask them questions, send your work to them and ask them what you are doing that is right and what you are doing is wrong, and let them guide you as to what you need to do in order to present a very strong cover letter. Apart from that, you need to know how to explore.
Okay, back. I'm not going to talk again. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right.
So do you want to take 3 minutes?
So,
Take 3 minutes so that we can get Vivian to also talk, please. I no longer
okay.
trust this system that much.
Okay. So exploring the department to which you want to apply is very, very important. You need to know those who are working in the area where you work and those who are not, right? So that when you are developing your cover letter, you can mention some of those things. I'm sure Dr. Asaju had mentioned that. So to move away from all of this, what are the documents that you need to apply for I mean, an assistant, a tenure track assistant professor job in North America? The first one is cover letter, which I would not go back to because Dr. Ashaju has already touched on that. But the second thing you need is your CV. Like I said, publishing is very key, and that's one of the key things that you need to have on your CV. What else? Conferences. As a grad student, you are expected to have attended 1 to 2 to 3 conferences of like such as the LSA and likes. And if you've also had the opportunity to chair or organize panels, it's important that you indicate all those things on your CV. And another thing you want to mention or you want to appear on your CV are the scholarships or the fellowships and funding that you've won, because those would speak a lot about the kind of scholar that you will be when you eventually get hired, by the university, because no university wants to hire someone who would not be able to attract funding or grants to the faculty or the university and the likes. So think about a lot about that. So on your CV, try to ensure that those things actually appear appear. And another thing you want to think about are your reference letters. Who are the people giving you reference letters, right? Ensure that the people who are giving you reference letters are those who really believe in you and who want you to progress. Because some letter writers might not be passionate about what they are writing. And if they are not passionate, committees will see in committee, the people reviewing the letters would see it clearly. And that, might affect your chances of landing a job, a chance of landing a job. And another thing is your research statement. Research statement is key when you're applying, because that's part of the documents that universities ask applicants to submit. And what's a research statement? A research statement is a document that shows the kinds of research that you're working on and the research that you'll be working on going forward. That means your future research. So in that research statement, you want to talk about what you're doing currently, its importance, the kinds of contributions that that research is making to the body of knowledge or existing literature. And you also want to talk about the kinds of methodology you are using, right? As well as how and where you want to get the sources that you would use to carry out this research. And following that, you want to talk about your future research. Do you have any other research that you're thinking about exploring? So those are the kinds of things that should appear on your research statement. And another key document is teaching statements, right? Teaching statements is a statement that actually speaks to your pedagogy, right? Your teaching style, right? What are the kinds of things? How do you approach courses? How do you approach your classes such that your students will be able to have a better or greater understanding of what you are trying to pass across to them? Do you use basically materials that are focusing in your field? Let's assume you are an anthropologist, right? Are you using basically or mainly anthropological documents, or you are mixing documents, or you are using documents from other fields such as history, political science, and like? I would recommend that if you're developing a teaching statement, ensure that you indicate that you are using, you use different types of sources from different areas, because it would help pique the interest of your students and at the same time help introduce them to what's going on in the other fields in the social sciences and the humanities. Another
Okay.
document that they
Can you
ask
can you
for
take
is
can you take a minute? A minute more, please.
okay. So the last one I'll talk about, maybe I shouldn't even mention that because Vivian is right there, is diversity statements. I would leave that to Vivian. And also writing sample, maybe teaching evaluation. I think I'm good. Just not to take everything away from NASA and Vivian. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Dr. Naza Okoli had joined us, and they were going to provide for her as well. So Vivian, take the role, and if you could take 10 minutes or less, about 8 minutes, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Try to keep it even shorter, but thank you for the chairs, for all the doctors that I'm amongst on the panel, and I'm really sorry I'm not there in person. LSA is honestly the best conference ever that I've attended many times, and so I'm looking forward to seeing all of you next year, hopefully in person. But I want to just agree with what everyone has said so far, so I don't want to repeat anything. As has been said before, making sure to ask people who you know or who you might know, people, just examples, and that kind of thing is actually quite formative when you look through it. The other side of the job market at this point, I've been a professor for a few years now at 2 different places, and I've seen the applicant pools. And it's have said about genre. But I also that the job market as a whole is very difficult. There are, as I said, just a question of numbers. And I say this just to foreground that you could do all the right things and things might not align up, and that's nothing actually to do necessarily with you as an individual or your merit, but structurally how academia is right now in the United States, and I think also in other places. So that being said, you know, how do we navigate it? This is something others have gone over the application process. Just very quickly in terms of little application process, we've been asked to talk about interviews, job talks, visits. So in the United States, especially after the pandemic, what is quite common is after you get past the first round, you might be invited for an interview. These increasingly take place over Zoom. They're only oftentimes, it can vary, but let's say 15 to half an hour, 15 minutes to half an hour. These are really short, compressed times where they're still considering a rather large pool, maybe people or so, and just trying to get a sense down of who to narrow it down to come to campus, which is a much more serious, long interview that includes a lecture. And so through these, some very useful advice I got was similar to what others have said, but in terms of practicing, is just being very literal about, you know, answering questions quickly, which can be quite difficult. So I've been given advice, for example, for especially online interviews, keep your answers all under 1 minute, under 2 minutes, if possible, and they can ask you follow-up questions. And then in terms of job talks and the interviews, I would say what these are trying to assess is, you know, everyone has written materials. Maybe everyone in the pool of 100 people has publications, all of these kinds of things. And so, you know, all of us kind of know this to some extent, but past a certain point, it's not necessarily quote unquote about merit in and of itself, but for better or worse, these are people trying to figure out who they want their next colleague to be. And that can be a range of factors. This actually links in maybe a little bit to the diversity statement that I just meant. But what I would say is for visits, many of them are looking for you know, what they want in the next colleague, meaning someone that they are interested in working with. You know, oftentimes they're looking for balance between willingness to do some service, but also willingness to be independent and not need to be handheld, kind of made that transition from PhD to colleague. Someone who is probably, to some extent, a bit humble in terms of being able to work with a person, but also, again, kind of independent, confident enough to do their own work. And so it's kind of this strange sense, balance.
In the late 80s, as a
Just,
master student.
Oh.
What's going on? You want to hear me? No, I'm not a panelist. I think we're going to get, somebody will handle the ticket for that talk. Vivian, please proceed.
Okay, just my one sentence summary, which I think is related to the diversity statement, all the others, the show not tell, but specifically the kinds of things that your perspective brings to a classroom, to an academic setting, to your research. Your experiences, how that informs the questions you're interested in, the kind of students ethos that you want to cultivate.